It takes a certain kind of man to grab the mic and plead with your president and countrymen to end a civil war. Didier Drogba had numerous highlights during his football career, and during his 9 years at Stamford Bridge, he became a Chelsea icon. None of them, not even his effort against Bayern Munich in the Champions League final to give the Blues their first Champions League trophy, can compare to this. A terrible civil conflict tore Ivory Coast apart on October 8, 2005. Countrymen had previously been united under a single banner, but now they were split between the rebel-held North and the government-controlled South. While the war was raging on a Sudanese football pitch over 4,000 kilometers away, 11 Ivory Coast players stood side by side. Victory in this match and Cameroon failing to win against Egypt would send them to the first ever World Cup. Didier Drogba and his teammates did their share, defeating Sudan 3-1. The game in Cameroon was approaching its closing minutes, and the score was 1-1. Cameroon was given an injury time penalty with the score, and it appeared that Ivory Coast would be missing from football's biggest tournament once more. The national squad of Ivory Coast crowded around a radio. The players, who came from all across the country, were unified in their hope. The entire country of Ivory Coast held its breath as Pierre Wome stepped up to take the penalty. Wome hit the post, and the Ivory Coast qualified for the World Cup. The players deservedly rejoiced, but it wasn't long before Drogba's thoughts drifted to the civil war that had raged in his country since 2002. He grabbed the microphone and addressed his fellow Ivorians. Men and women of Ivory Coast from the north, south, centre and west, we prove today that all Ivorians can coexist and play together with a shared aim, to qualify for the World Cup. We promised you that the celebrations would unite the people. Today, we beg you on our knees. The players then fell to their knees as Drogba added, "The one country in Africa with so many riches must not descend into war. Please lay down your weapons and hold elections." After the speech, the players rose and sang, "We want to have fun, so stop firing your guns." Drogba's act sparked a revolution in the country. The footage of his address was shown on Ivorian television 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it ultimately brought the two warring parties to the negotiation table, where a truce was signed. This, however, was far from the conclusion of the story. The following year, while on a tour of Ivory Coast's rebel-controlled north, he declared that the national team's match against Madagascar on June 3, 2007 would be staged in the rebel stronghold of Bouaké. It was an attempt to bring the country back together, as he came from the south. It was a huge success at the time, with a 5-0 victory highlighted by Drogba's last goal, which sparked nationwide celebrations. Drogba had helped restore peace to his country, although only momentarily, as the national team's leader and spokesperson. What happened next, on the other hand, was tragically quite different. The enthusiasm around those two matches began to wane as divides deepened and memories faded. After disputed elections 5 years later, violence erupted again in the nation, killing 3,000 people and leading to President Gbagbo's arrest and ultimate prosecution at The Hague for crimes against humanity. However, this March he was acquitted of all charges by the International Criminal Court. The golden generation of Ivory Coast never lived up to their potential, losing on penalties in both the 2006 and 2012 African Cup of Nations finals. As a result, their popularity plummeted. Perhaps it was just difficult to follow up on the events of 2005 and 2007. Drogba resigned from football in 2018, following a spectacular career that saw victory in 6 nations and cemented his place among Africa's, if not the world's, greats. but he and his teammates were responsible for considerably more than simply football success. But we must never forget how Drogba and his Ivorian teammates gave their country hope during its darkest hour. Didier Drogba, in his youthful days, grew up in a native village where harsh living conditions existed. His early life saw lots of hunger, which ravaged him and his family. This economic situation made thousands of Ivorians flee their country for greener pastures in France. France at that time was seen as a refugee destination for Ivorian migrants. Didier Drogba, during his childhood ages, suffered from malnutrition, which limited both his physical and mental growth. But none of these difficulties prevented the Ivory Coast International from winning 4 Premier League titles and a Champions League, among many accolades at Chelsea. Didier Drogba, a pioneer of African football, was one of the most prominent footballing faces from the region in Europe. The legendary Ivory Coast International was an integral part of the renaissance of Chelsea Football Club under Roman Abramovich in the early 21st century. He is arguably the greatest footballer in the history of Ivory Coast and is regarded as a legendary figure at Stamford Bridge. Millions of football fans across the globe admire Didier Drogba, and many die-hard fans see him as the only football legend with an unmatched desire for Chelsea Football Club. Blues fans love him just as Real Madrid and Barca fans love Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. So tell us, what do you think of Didier Drogba? For more videos like this, please subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.